Hello everyone, we are back, and we are here with a review of Trepang2, developed by Trepang, which I thought was kind of an interesting name for the developer, and published by Team 17. Now, this is one that caught my attention because when looking at it in motion and seeing what the game's going for, it gave off the vibes of First Encounter Assault Recon or Fear by Monolith, which is one of my favorite shooters of all time. And to see, say, kind of like a spiritual successor or a game pay homage to it, immediately caught my attention. And I would say Trepang fits it well. It's probably got some of the best gunplay I've seen in a long time for a shooter, and good movement as well. In terms of how it works, it plays also somewhat similarly to Fear as well, because you also have like reflexes or slow-mo in the game, just like the Point Man. However, the one advantage that 106 has, that's the name of your character, over Point Man, is that he has a cloaking ability, which is similar to, say, the nano suit ability you have in Crisis. And that's normally good for just, getting out of line of sight or trying to sneak up behind someone, and say if you want to pick them up as like a shield, or if you just want to blast them from behind. I didn't find myself using the cloakwork ability that much throughout, but it did come in handy during some scenarios around the end of the game, or at least the last few missions or something with it. But I found myself using slow-mo and sliding, and the sliding is just ridiculous because if you slide under somebody, you can knock them up, you can knock them off their feet and have them fly in the air, and just shoot them while in the air. And to top that with like that satisfying gunplay, and using your slow-mo effect with it is just really satisfying. So in terms of like movement and feel, I think this game is pretty much nails it spot on, especially when it comes to its selection of weapons. You have your standard pistol, you also have an SMG, an AR, you have also like a 3-round kind of grenade rifle of sorts, but my two favorite weapons in this game happen to be the grenade launcher and the shotgun, and the shotgun is probably one of my favorite things in this, especially when you get the ability to dual wield almost any weapon as long as you can find two of them. It's just, there's just bliss with it, and nothing for me can beat the feeling of dual wielding, say, silenced shotguns or a shotgun with incendiary rounds and just blast in a room. It was just so satisfying, especially with the other mobility that 106 has. It just makes for a fun time, and it's not just gunplay that's factored here. You also can do some melee stuff besides melee butting and the sliding. You can also do jump kicks, and if you kick somebody, you can actually kind of bounce back off them, which is kind of neat. So the game gives you quite a bit of options when it comes to how you want to approach a scenario in terms of your fights. It's not linear when it comes to it. The arenas are actually pretty open, and they're pretty destructible, at least when you have particle effects and you can destroy some of the things in the room. Not everything is destructible though, so there is some limitations when it comes to it, but it's not that big of a deal, I find. It is maybe a little bit immersion breaking, maybe sometimes, but other than that, I think like the destruction is awesome combined with that shooting. Now, as good as that gameplay is, it needs a foundation of like a story or something to hold it together, and the story is just eh. I could say you're basically picked up you were basically rescued by another assailant, and then you join a Spectre squad, and your task was just taking down Horizon and stopping their experiments. So the story's kind of basic, and you can get more information through things you find in the environment, like intel documents, but I never really paid too much attention to it as much. It's just they're kind of interesting, but its story is also not the greatest in terms of how it's told as well. Like, even during some points, Like there's things happening and it's just a black screen where you'll just hear characters talking. And on top of hearing the characters talk, you don't get to see a lot of them. Like, for example, the female that's talking to you over your headset, you never get to see them in the entire game. And even some characters that talk in the world, they all have masks on, so you won't be able to see their faces or even see the lip syncing. And even the soldiers you're fighting, they're pretty generic, they're all pretty standard fare, but again, you had that with Fear as well in terms of design. You did have different enemy types in terms of abilities and stuff. Like you had, for example, one with a shield and even, you know, heavier units, but the model is like, there isn't much to work off of when it comes to variety. Its environments, though, look good when it comes to that, but again, it's pretty simple when it comes to that stuff. So, like, overall, like, at least the levels exist just to play them. The story is just kind of there as maybe a loose thread to tie things together. And there aren't that many missions as well. There's like 5 main missions in the whole game, and then you have a couple of side missions which are just, you know, simple objectives. But you can also use those to get enhancements for your weapons or like parts that you can put on. So for example, suppressors, or even, as I said, incendiary barrel for your shotgun that can make it act like flame breath or something, which is kind of neat. You also do have some slight customization again when it comes to the weapons. It's not just for the shotgun, you have that for almost all the weapons in the game, provided you can find them. You're not going to find all of them during the main campaign, you're going to have to find some of them during side quests, so there is a slight sense of replayability when it comes to that stuff. And then the side missions, again, they're just okay. The other thing that you can also do is you can do combat simulators, which is just basically wave-based combat. You're fighting waves of enemies and just surviving, and you're getting money as you're killing them, so you can use that to buy weapons or even buy more ammo for that stuff, and even like grenades. So the combat simulator is kind of the thing that kept me coming back at least a little bit for it after finishing the game. Like, the game is not that long, and on hard difficulty, playing it took me about 5 hours, so it's not very long for its story. However, there is stuff to do outside of it, such as gathering all the intel pieces, or even going through the combat simulator, seeing how high you can get with the waves, getting all of the enhancements for your guns. So there is stuff to do. I just kind of wish there was a little more to hold to it, though, when it comes to gameplay. Like, I mean, the gameplay itself is solid, as I said. That gunplay is excellent. Movement is great, but it's just kind of the things surrounding it. Like, as I said, the story and stuff is just kind of eh. However, one thing that I can't deny with it is how pretty it is. Trepang looks great. I think this is a good-looking title. It actually runs really well, and it scales alright. I'm not running the greatest hardware. I'm running like a mid-range PC, and it pretty much held its performance throughout. However, if you want to, you can tweak options. The graphics options in this game are actually pretty good. You can mess with them, and they even show you a little picture of, like, hey, here's what it does. So I do like that for customization options. I want that to be standard with everything. However, when it comes to the customization, it doesn't really say how much it's going to affect your performance in terms of your VRAM or your CPU or your RAM or anything of that nature. So just keep that in mind. So there's going to be a little bit of tweaking when it comes to that, but the fact that you have these customization options is pretty solid. You can even play it with a controller. I didn't try it, so I can't tell you how it is with controller. But, like, visually, I think this game looked great. Sound-wise, everything sounds meaty. Like, the guns sound great. Same with explosions. Those sound good. However, mixing is a little bit weird. There are points where I found where the dialogue kind of outweighs the music or the sound effects in the game, so like that stuff gets toned down while the dialogue is up there, and then it just like weirdly goes back to normal for the sound effects and music. So mixing's a little bit off, and the music itself, I like it. It's all heavy. It's like heavy metal stuff, and it fits in tune with the combat of what you're doing. it kind of gives off the vibe of Doom, like Doom 2016 or even Doom Eternal when you're fighting. So it's like heavy, loud when you're fighting, and then it's a little more calm when you're outside of that, and it immediately switches like down to a lower key for it. Like the music is alright. It may not be to everybody's taste. You can lower it down if you want, but I almost kind of feel like you could do atmospheric stuff with it. Say something akin to Fear, like make it a little more low key. Like it's fun to have the loud stuff, but sometimes it's nice if the music takes a bit of a backseat and just have the sound of destruction just go into play with it. Because at points it's almost felt you were drowning in its sound effects. But I feel like it's well done. It may not be to everybody's taste, but that's up to you when you play this thing. But overall, I would say with Trepang2, I enjoyed it. It was pretty good for what I tried. That gunplay, like I said, is probably some of the best shooting I've seen in a FPS in a while, and its movement feels very good. It's just that foundation isn't really held very well with everything else around it. Like its story is just kind of lackluster, and it's just kind of these narrow threads. It's just like holding it in place to play these levels. The combat simulator is really where you can let loose when it comes to playing with those guns and with that movement. If you're into shooters, then you're gonna have fun with this. I still enjoy my time, and I do definitely want to play more of it. But if you're not sure, maybe take a watch first, see if it's your kind of game before jumping into it. With that, I want to give a shout out and thank you to Keymailer for providing me a copy of this to play for review. And again, big shout out to also Team 17 and to Trepang themselves for making this and for taking a chance on me. I hope you guys liked this review. Please let me know what you thought in the comments below. Have you played this game? Have you played any shooters? What are your thoughts in general? I'd love to hear your feedback. Your support means everything. So with that being said, I thank you all for watching this video, and until next time, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.